You're listening to Estrogen Dropouts.
Hey, welcome back to Estrogen Dropouts. I'm one of your hosts, Erin.
And I'm Elizabeth. And today we have a very special guest. We have Carol Brailey. She is a content creator, an image consultant, a hairdresser, and she is a seasonal color analysis expert. And she actually personally did my seasonal color analysis and completely changed how I do my hair, makeup, how I dress. Like it just blew my mind. She's been featured on many media outlet publications from the BBC, Cosmo, GQ, more. We are so excited to have Carol here.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
We, Elizabeth and I we've referenced in our episode on how to look your best in midlife. We talked to our listeners about having color analysis done by a professional. And if you had to explain to a listener who's listening who's like, color analysis, what does that even mean? How do you explain season color analysis to someone who has never heard of it?
So I call it the process to help you identify your best hair, makeup, clothing, and accessory colors for life. And in essence, it's a facelift without the surgery. When you're wearing your best colors, your skin appears smoother, brighter, your jawline gets lifted, your eyes sparkle, and the world sees you. So that's the quick summary that I provide people. It makes shopping easier, efficient, and you just feel great.
So tell us about your credentials and what the process that you went through to become a color analysis expert.
Yeah, I stumbled across color analysis through my image consulting certification program. It was one of the courses of that program. It was an intro course. And then I realized during that course, I fell in love with color analysis. And I took advanced training through the International Image Institute and developed my own in-person practice following that, and then ran that in-person practice for many years, and then branched out into the virtual color analysis space. Primarily, me and the founder of the International Image Institute worked together to build the virtual processes, but that's how I've been branching out into virtual. I'm sure we'll get into more of that, but ultimately I am accredited with the International Image Institute, and I'm a member of AICI, which is the Association of Image Consultants International.
That's fantastic. And I love your social media because you are very, you explain the process, you explain everything so clearly. So you guys should definitely be following Carol to learn more about this. She's on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. She's on everything. But there's a lot of misconceptions with color analysis, and people often think they can do it themselves. So for about 9 months before I had it done by Carol, there was a new color analysis on TikTok that was someone that had a ton of experience. I just commented on one of her posts like, hey, I don't know what I am or whatever. And she looked at my social media and she was like, you're a soft bottom. And I took it and ran with it. And she's like, based on like that, you're a soft bottom. And I bought all kinds of colored autumn clothes. And it made sense to me intellectually because I have hazel green eyes. And anytime I wear orange, it makes my eyes pop. But with someone with a makeup background, like I'm trying to make features pop all the time. And so what happens whenever you're going necessarily for a pop, it's more dramatic and not so harmonious. And so I had been like, anyway, all the colors, it wasn't seeming right. I was sending Erin pictures of me. Literally, you guys, I was blowing her up, which we talked about this on a previous. She was so gracious with me, but every day I would stand in front of the mirror and I'd put on like 2 different color shirts, or I'd send her literally a book of images. What do you think of all this? Because I wasn't 100% sold that I was an autumn, even though that's what she said. So Chris was like, who is this woman that you're obsessed with? And I was like, her name's Carol Brailey. And he went on and he signed me up and purchased the color analysis for me. And that's what started. So I just think there's a lot of misconceptions about color analysis. So do you find, Carol, that lots of people have stories similar to mine where I just think you cannot color and analyze yourself. That's what I think. After doing it myself and working with Erin, she and I both trying to figure me out, like, I just think you cannot see yourself clearly.
It's very common because what happened in your
Yeah.
situation was somebody didn't compare colors on you. They just looked at you, probably looked at your eye color and what your current hair color it was at the time, which was much lighter, darker lightly than what it was around the age of 20. So they just visually looked at you. Color analysis, you can look at somebody and take an educated guess, perhaps, but ultimately, color analysis is about doing color comparisons on you with very specific colors. And so, if you aren't viewing what those colors are actually doing to somebody's skin, jawline, and overall vibrancy, you really don't know their color analysis result. And so, it's also really difficult to see ourselves sometimes. We're going with what we've heard through the years, what people told us through the years, possibly our likes, dislikes, get involved. It's hard to look at ourselves through accurate eyes.
Well, similar to Elizabeth, I hosted an image consultant who came for my ladies in the neighborhood and gave us tips on how to style ourselves. And she did each of our color analysis and she analyzed me as a summer just by looking at me. She didn't do, like you said, the checks. And then when I finally did have my color analysis done in February and I went in person, and I'm a sultry winner in the House of Color. So walk us through the process that your system uses in determining someone's color season and then maybe even their subseason. I know Elizabeth said that you use a 23 season system.
So for an in-person color analysis, I do ask for historical pictures so that I can see their natural coloring development over time. So usually maybe 1 or 2 pictures per decade of life. And so that certainly helps. So I take in that, and then through the in-person color analysis process, I'll drape somebody looking at cool versus warm colors in step 1. In step 2, if somebody leans cool, look at winter versus summer colors, because those are the cool home seasons. If somebody leans warm, I'll look at the autumn versus spring colors, because those are the warm home seasons. And then in step 3, their final result will be arrived at. So let's say in step 2, they were a summer. In step 3, I would figure out through a draping process what sort of summer they were. So true summer, cool summer, light summer, or muted summer, or somewhere even more in between, more refined. And that's how I get to the 23 result possibilities. So that's the in-person process. And really, the virtual process is no different. Historical pictures are looked at, just my virtual draping backgrounds. I use color backgrounds and I just isolate somebody's natural coloring through their face and put their face on the color backgrounds. And the exact same process is done just through virtual.
So how important is it to have, because for me, I think I could see my results clearer. I remember when I got my true summer result from you, I was shocked. I was like, what? Oh my gosh. I was shocked. But then I can see it when I look at, I was having a hard time in my adult years seeing it, because as a makeup artist, I'm always kind of out there and dramatic with my makeup and looks and hair and all this kind of stuff. So, but when I look back at like that 18-year-old, no color in hair, natural light, and then I start going back through childhood,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, this little girl's got like no warmth in her. I'm like looking at her, I'm like, I can see it then so clearly. I'm like, she's a summer.
But
Like,
you used to always tell me I'm so warm. And I'm like,
and I would say you did. You were always like, I don't know. But I said that because, and I think this is a common issue that people have. I'm olive. And so if you're olive skin, it's like your overtone is different than your undertone. So Carol can maybe talk about this. My skin has like a yellow look to it. And so if I wear a cool tone foundation, even though my color season is cool, it looks very ashy on me.
So it's actually very common for us summers, because I'm a true summer as well, for our overtone to be quite yellow. So when you're shopping for foundation, you actually have to incorporate your surface coloring into your foundation purchase as well. Now, for me, I do find cool undertone foundations that align to my surface coloring. It's a lot too. Sometimes you have to blend different browns or what have you. So this is where the makeup, maybe blending that they do, or makeup products might be out of sync a bit with color analysis or what have you. But ultimately, I do advise clients, if you have a cool undertone through a color analysis, that it ultimately is best to find a foundation that is also cool, but also incorporate your surface coloring into that foundation as well. And so it's possible, and I'm no makeup expert like yourself, Elizabeth, but it is possible that there's a better products out there, and maybe you could blend them and what have you. Because I know for me, I can find a warm undertone foundation that blends with my surface coloring, but does it uplift it is a question. I find a warm foundation on me can add some shadowing that I'm not liking. But certainly, if you found one that you are happy with, I say go with it. I certainly, makeup companies are formulating things differently, and every brand has their own naming conventions as well that can be all over the place, like what is beige nude and things like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for me, I just match my skin tone, like my face. I find that that works best for me. And then the way I work in the cool makeup is I'll do a cool, like if I want to use a concealer to brighten, I'm going to go with a cool shade of that. And then all my blush and eyeshadows and lip liners and lipstick, like all the color, I always
Yeah.
now go cool. And it is just so much better. And
Amazing.
even with hair, I'm always like now, well, now I'm natural. This is just growing out, but I'm always going cool.
Well, we mentioned a little bit before we started recording about how people have a preference. And because I have my entire life loved warm colors, like the autumn palette, that's like the olive greens, the terracottas, all of those colors. And so I would wear colors like that because, again, you cannot really see yourself objectively. It's just that those were the colors that I preferred. I'm in a hot pink because it's one of my wow colors. I never wore pink before I had my color analysis done. Never wore cobalt blue, never wore, but I think that in our society, especially when you go shopping, everything tends to lean kind of like into the autumn palette or maybe summer. And so it's, beige, gray, black are just easy to like lean into. So how do you handle when you have somebody that comes to you who, like for me, if I was coming to you and I wore all warm colors, do you ever have people who push back against you and are like, no, there's no way. Like, I love brown or I love orange. Are you having to like sometimes almost like get psychologically into
I
their
will
mind
always
and
say
say,
wear what you love.
this is
And,
what you look best in? It
so
doesn't matter
this
what you're
sort of
drawn to.
scenario, it happens in both, even when the client's sitting with you and you're physically showing them what the colors are doing to them. And so I equated a bit like when I was younger, I probably dated people that were no good for me, or they didn't treat me right, but I liked them and I didn't want to let them go, and that sort of thing. But my girlfriends would be like, why are you with that person, that sort of thing, right? But you like them. And sometimes we hold on to things that might not be in our highest interest. And so it's about coaching people through that. And sometimes it takes a while for a client to even process a result. I tell them what I see and try and coach them as best as possible to that. And sometimes it can take a year for a client to realize. I've had situations where a client was upset, say, about their result. Not that it was wrong, just upset about accepting it. And they wrote me back. This has happened multiple times, actually. They've written me back maybe 6 months, year later. I've even received emails 2 years later apologizing for their reaction and that they now see it, which is fine. Everybody has their own journey, and color is energy. And I find sometimes it can bring out emotion in people, and it's totally fine.
Love that you say wear what you love, but
Happy
I find
birthday.
that like for like I'm 55. Elizabeth's 50 yesterday. Yeah,
Thank you.
her birthday was yesterday. But I find that, if I was 20 and I was wearing those colors, I could slide under the radar a little bit with the colors that weren't in my season because I had a lot of vibrancy in my skin. I had youth. I didn't have wrinkles. I had a very defined jawline, all of that. And I was talking to my conscious business partner, was like, you should just wear 11. I said, I know, but as I'm getting into my mid 50s and beyond, I want to be able to like wear less makeup, but look really vibrant and awake and not always look like I'm just tired. So I think that, for me, it was like a cheat code to be able to do less with like makeup, because then makeup starts kind of sitting when you get lines and, and sometimes it's like less is more, I feel like, for me as I get older. And then it also just helped me, like embrace some of the gray that is, like Elizabeth said, I'm dark headed, but then I've done a blonde and we're going lighter, like more platinum to blend with the gray away from like the golden blonde. That will make it easier for me, to maintain that kind of effervescence of youth without, having to pile on the makeup.
And so we're all roughly in the same age range. When you get to our age range too, perhaps I'm a true summer, right? So orange is in my color palette. But let's say I liked orange and I had worn it for 30 years. It's my favorite color. Sometimes it's hard to let that go. But it's about also trusting who you signed up with and trusting the process and just making those changes, and you will never regret it, in my opinion, because like you say, you just look as vibrant as you can be. It's a facelift without the surgery. And you could walk out your door not wearing a ton of makeup, just being in your colors, and people will say, wow, you look so rested. What have you been doing to your skin lately? And you'll be like, what happened? I'm not even wearing makeup, right? It's just easy. It's effortless.
That's so true.
Thank you.
Okay.
The quick answer is a hair color change, whether it be your colored hair or naturally going gray, will not change your color analysis result. Your color analysis result is ultimately based on your genetics. And I often joke, for your color analysis result to change, your biological family would need to change. And so a change in hair color does not change your color analysis result. However, there are some color analysis palettes where if I opened a color analysis textbook, it would suggest that coloring hair, as it goes gray, would be best for somebody's vibrancy, like the autumn palette, as you say. Now, I always say you have to do you in this. And your budget, lifestyle, personality all needs to factor into that. And so if I have several autumn, like thousands of autumn clients actually, where I've probably said to them something like, do you, but if you want to go your natural, it will still have some warmth to it because ultimately their undertone is warm. And I know many, many, many autumns that have chosen to grow out their natural gray and just wear their autumn colors, and they look fabulous in my opinion. If they choose to do that, I do recommend minimizing use of purple blue shampoo, because purple blue shampoo would take out the warmth, right? When you want some degree of warmth, it would be significant upkeep. Yeah.
That's what I'm dealing with now. So yeah, so it's like the
Yeah.
brown. So I'll put the cool brown in because I was like bleached blonde before. So then putting the cool blonde, then it just
Yeah.
fades constantly. And so
Yeah.
I have decided though, I actually have hair
Yeah.
fitness Friday. I'm gonna do blonde highlights. So it's like natural now to here, but I'm gonna do some
Yeah.
just to
It
help
does.
brighten it up, but then just not put any more brown in it because it goes warm so fast on me. And then that way I'll just do highlights from here on out with my
Yeah.
natural. And then as the grays continue, because I do have a lot of gray too. As that
Yeah.
comes in, it'll mix with the
Well,
highlight and I can do the
that's
purple
why I've gone
shampoo.
natural.
But
I
I just can't,
didn't like
I don't
the
have the
high
patience to
maintenance to
keep putting in
maintain
the
the ash,
brown and
because
having the
summers need
grass up
ash
on.
in their hair.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. When you have somebody, or do you ever have, I guess everybody falls in a season, right? Or into 23, but let's just for simplicity's sake, say the four main color seasons. Do you ever have people that ride a line between, say, summer and autumn, or spring and winter, or winter and autumn? Is there
Yeah, so step
a
3
certain
of the color analysis
person that
process
has
actually looks
that
at
kind
what
of
I say the
borderline?
combination or flow palettes are. Somebody can have a mix of, say, winter and spring in them, and they be what's called the bright palette. Either they might lean bright winter or bright spring, but ultimately the coloring of bright would be the palette given to them. So that's where step 3, that's where I get to the 23 result possibilities. It's possible in step 3 to identify that somebody might cross over between two flows. So I might say to somebody, you know what, stick to the darker colors of this palette and the lighter colors of a neighboring palette, because, you know, undertone, value, and intensity is what color analysis looks at, which are the 3 aspects of color. And it's a scale, it's not boxes. It's possible for somebody to cross over to flow seasons, and I would just, yeah. The
Which is
lighter.
kind of, I mean, I'm a true summer, but you did say to me, you were like, you can also wear true muted and some of the darker, yeah, that you're like, so
That's a
I got
great
both of
example.
the
You would have been
to look at,
told
the
to
true
focus
muted
on the
and the
darker
true
colors of true
summer, just
summer,
as
and
references.
Elizabeth might have also wanted to focus on the lighter colors of the muted card. And you would have received a result called True Summer moving towards muted or something like that, with a slightly neutral undertone to your coloring. Yeah. So that's a great example where someone can cross.
Okay, so people can, I mean, everybody falls like primarily in one season, but then they sometimes can have some
Over
crossover or like
50% of
borderline it
people,
get
though,
bordering
receive 4
another one. That
palettes
makes
that I
sense.
give out. It's most people receive these as true winter, true summer, true autumn, or true spring. Most people fit in those 4 categories.
And so if a let's say a mom is a spring, a true spring, and a dad is a true summer, what do the kids are the
Yeah.
kids always one of those two? Or can you have a kid that's
You know,
like
genetics is hard,
biological
right?
kids?
It's kind of
Could
like,
you have a kid that's an
you know,
autumn with a spring and a
we have
winter
our
parent?
grandparents' biology. We have our great grandparents, right? So it's really, where did you pick things up along the line? So I have color analyzed whole families where, you know, there's a mixture and it makes sense with the parents. And then I've color analyzed families who are biological families that, you know, someone picked up some of their grandparents' coloring. And so it does vary sometimes.
Okay, so you can't tell like if you're
It depends
a
where they pick things
winter
up. Yeah.
and a summer, parents, your kids could be still a different season. That's interesting. Yeah, yeah, interesting. Okay.
So about the virtual color analysis. Now, whenever I was deciding who I was going to use to do my analysis, Carol first introduced me to this. She showed up on one of my feeds, and then after that, of course, I started looking into it, following many more people. But I always came back to Carol because, one, I liked her accreditation. I liked that she was certified and that she had done this for many years in person before she went virtual. And I think that that's really important. I think that people need to start in person so they really start to learn it, and then they go virtual instead of someone that's just like did a program online and then started doing it on like. I liked the way that she trained and went through the system.
That's what I will start off with and say. And so it really ultimately, in my opinion, is about choosing the system that you want to be assessed within. So when I say system, I mean where somebody trained. So House of Color would have been the person you went to, Erin, like where somebody trained. What system do you want to be assessed within? The second thing is then to find people who have the training and experience that you want, who use that system. And to me, that's more important than worrying about virtual or in person, because like I say, I've met people who were given results in person that, in my opinion, are completely way off, and they come to me to get a second opinion. So I wouldn't be worrying about virtual so much. However, it is advised to someone is getting trained in color analysis, to ensure that you have an in-person color analysis practice first before starting out in the virtual realm. And I completely agree with that, because I don't think I'd have the confidence to offer a virtual service had I not had my vast in-person experience. And so there are some people skipping that step, and no judgment. It's just you have to decide from a consumer perspective, do you want somebody who skipped that step? Read the bios would be my advice. So yeah, so I wouldn't worry so much about in-person or virtual. I actually feel more confidence these days doing virtual, because I've done it thousands and thousands and thousands of times now, and for people around the globe. It's nice to have a report at your fingertips, in my opinion, that you could keep going back to. I found even when I offered an in-person service, people would leave the appointment and forget some of the details or forget what they saw and question the results. So questioning results happens in person and virtually, and it's nice to have the virtual report too.
Is there one thing that someone could do at home that could help them look more harmonious? Like, even if they don't have, maybe somebody doesn't have the money right now to do a color consult. I mean, because I know you can do it virtually with you, and we want to definitely share your contact information. But is there any one thing that somebody could do that would just help them look more harmonious? Like,
Well, a quick thing that you could do, but some
I
people
guess that would be hard to
might
know without their colors. Like, or yes, how, or like, so what,
not look at this properly, perhaps review some color analysis content before doing this to maybe train your eye a bit. But you could look at, is the color overwhelming you? Are you seeing the color before you look at your face? That's an easy check, but don't make sure the color's not a weak color, like that it's just you want to make sure it's harmonious with you and matching your strength. But ask yourself, is it easy to see my face before the color? And if you color your hair when doing that, just cover it with a white fabric.
yeah, I felt like a little House on the Prairie girl when she put the little white thing. I was like,
Yeah, so
I do
you
not like
could just
this
start
at all. I
comparing
would never have
colors at
lasted
home with no
in the
makeup
Pioneer
on,
days.
natural daylight. Grab some things from your closet, cover your hair, perhaps wear a white t-shirt and hold up some fabrics to your face and take a look in the mirror and look at what may be happening to your skin. I know, Elizabeth, after you received your color analysis, you were doing that sort of thing with like oranges and seeing what was happening to your face, and just compare colors in your closet as well. What you receive after a color analysis is just what I call a harmony guide. So it gives you a sampling of the colors for you to hold up to things you're contemplating purchasing. There we go. A swatch wallet. Just ask yourself, does it look like it fits in with these colors? Because they aren't exact match swatches. If we were to provide clients with references that had all the colors of a palette, first, it would be extremely complicated to put together such a guide, but it wouldn't be realistic for the customers to go around shopping with like this big book. Right? So don't use them like exact match swatches would be my advice, and just say, does it
Yeah.
look like it fits in with whatever guide you're using as well. I will say that on my social media coming up lightly later this week, I'm going to also be sharing an app with people that has over 150 colors for each palette reference. So people are asking for more colors. And so, that is coming out later this week. But ultimately, you could be using
exciting.
any one. The wallet you're using, this strip, and use it as a harmony guide, and you can't go wrong. Don't get too technical with things, because in my opinion, you won't buy any out there if you're looking for exact match swatches, because fabrics in stores are not developed by the same color analysis reference. Yeah.
Well, and also texture of fabric makes colors look different. And, if it's a shiny fabric or if it's a fleece fabric. So that's, I think, the best advice that I received and that you just said was, is it in harmony with my palette. So if it looks like it just kind of flows. It's like, okay, yes, I can wear this color. It may not be on my little swatch with these particular, colors. The green may not be the exact green that I have, the two greens on my swatch, but it flows, it's in harmony. And I also heard another piece of advice, and you can tell me if this is good or not, was they said compare it to the opposite side of the color wheel, I guess, so if I'm looking at a green, then I would look at my red. So if I was wanting to get a green that isn't on my card, pair it
That's
to
interesting.
red, like
Yes, it
on my
actually
swatch,
does.
and see if it harmonizes. Does that make sense what I'm
You could
saying?
do it that way. I've just never
Interesting.
even suggested doing it something like that. I just always advise, though, stick to your own this is just me talking. Stick to your own references and don't look to other things outside your reference to guide you, because really this is your guide. I find the easiest thing to tell people is don't think about undertone when you're out there shopping. Think about value and intensity first. Hold it up. So value is light, dark, somewhere in between. Intensity is bright, soft, somewhere in between. Focus on those aspects. And usually when you get those aspects sorted out, if there's a harmony, the undertone naturally works itself out. I will say as well, I'm not a fan of using color references with text names on them, because you could type emerald green into Google and receive a different, million different visuals of greens back, as an example. And so I would use your color references as visual references.
Right. Because when you shop at, say, Banana Republic versus they could call pine green and it could be completely different colors. And I found that when I got my color analysis, I was trying to, Google pine green tops because it's one of my wow colors. And I'm like, that's not pine green. It was a warm color. Whereas I need the cool, light, bright, icy or whatever, or bright, icy. And so you're exactly right. You can't go by color names because there's a bazillion different color names. People name it what they want. It's like with nail polish. It doesn't really have to have anything to do with the color sometimes. It's just like,
there's no
what cutesy name can
standardization
we,
whatsoever.
or this is our trademark. This is what we call our beige. We call it whatever. Yeah.
I think actually, Erin and I say this all the time. We are longtime friends. We talk about it in person. We talk about it on voice message. Like we talk about color analysis all the time, how it is one of the best things we've done for ourselves. If you're looking for a great holiday gift, I think that this is it for you. I think you request this from your partner, or you get it for yourself. It is, especially going into the new year, everyone wants a fresh, to do something for themselves or a fresh start. This is it. And I will say it makes shopping, people think it makes things more complicated. I think it makes everything so much easier. And for me personally, as a content creator, so for people that think that this is bullshit and you should just wear whatever you want and it makes your heart happy, I agree with you 100%. But once you're over 50, things do age you. And if you choose to still, sometimes I still wear black because I like black, even though it's not my color of choice for my best colors. But when I'm a content creator. So when I do have to do an ad or something, I'm not going to wear black. That doesn't help me. Or if I'm going to a wedding, I just went to a wedding, we had family photos, I didn't wear black. So it's like, and things like that, when I really want to shine, I'm going to wear my true summer colors. The summer after I got my colors done, I had my hair professionally done in a really ashy brown, which is my natural color. And then I had ashy highlights put on top of it. That summer, I made the most money of my career. And it was literally within 2 weeks of me coloring my hair and posting content, I started getting blown up for ad campaigns. I became a JCPenney beauty ambassador that summer. It was my biggest, and I promise you, I 100% believe it is my colors. It was my hair. My makeup changed. I stopped trying to be so what trendy eyeshadows and what's glam. I started just complimenting my features and colors and wearing it in all my shirts and stuff on camera.
Congratulations.
And my sales just
That's
or my
wonderful.
content for ads.
I've seen it change
with
lives,
brands.
believe it or not. I've seen
That's funny.
people have new social situations, new romances, increased sales, like Elizabeth was referring to, job promotions, new job opportunities, because when you're wearing your colors too, you get this little new skip in your step. And there's something that does that you give out. And it also, if you're in sales or like real estate sales, any sort of sales field, you appear more authentic because you aren't hiding behind your color choices. People are more inclined to look at your eyes. If you're giving a presentation in front of a room, people are more inclined to look at you as well. And it just increases your presence. That's what we say.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I will also say, like, for years, I've been like super over the top glam. I've had pink hair, bleach hair, like all kinds of things. And it was just like always so fun and art for me. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I like that. But what's interesting is that I feel prettier now, with less of all of that stuff. Like, I don't feel like I need all of the, I don't feel like I need all the glam and all the hair color and all the eyeshadow. I feel like when I show up as myself in my colors, I feel like that's great. That's good.
Carol, share with our listeners where they can find you and how they can book a color analysis with you.
Absolutely. I can be found at carolbrailey.com. It's CarolBrailey.com. And I can also be found on all major social media channels at Carol Brailey as well.
And Erin will also
Awesome.
put that in the show notes too.
Okay.
So that
Okay,
people
For
can
thank
sure,
you.
for sure. But I still want you to be able to say it because for them to hear it from you. So, do you have any last words of wisdom for our listeners as far as color analysis goes? Or it can be something that has nothing to do with color analysis.
Well, I just want to say that it's a great one-time investment in you. And once you find out your colors, it will be the gift that keeps giving to you throughout the remainder of your life. And yeah, I really am honored to be on your program. So thank you for including me today.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us today.
Yeah, thank you. We're so
Thank you.
excited. And you guys can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and follow the show. We drop a new episode every Wednesday.
We'll see you next week.
All right, bye.
This has been a production of Estrogen Dropouts, LLC.